It begins when we're at school. We're judged on our punctuality and upon our appearance. We're judged on our grasp of spelling, grammar, and the intricate rules of mathematics. We're judged upon our ability to retain and regurgitate historic dates and scientific facts before the final judgment of our end of school exams. But as anyone in the demolition and construction industry will attest, that judgment is merely the beginning. There was a time when the demolition and construction industry operated like the Wild West. It was a period defined by a brutal sort of autonomy. A man's worth was measured by his output. There were no retina scanners clocking him in and out, no telematic sensors monitoring his idle time. It was a frontier where the only judge was a site foreman, and his verdict was final. But as the industry matured, we demanded order. We wanted to move away from the cowboy reputation and professionalize the sector. But in our haste to regulate, have we overcorrected? We've traded the grit of the frontier for a culture of relentless, overlapping scrutiny. Today, every worker and every firm stands perpetually in the dock, awaiting a judgment verdict. For the individual worker, the trial begins long before they even arrive at the site gate. They're first judged by the education system, then by industry training providers. We've reached a point where we no longer judge a person on their innate ability to handle a machine, but on their ability to pass a multiple choice health and safety touchscreen test. Once they've secured their plastic badge of competence, the interviews begin. Agencies, HR departments, and site managers all sit in judgment. But the scrutiny doesn't end once they're on the payroll. In the modern age, the machinery itself has been deputized. If an operator climbs into the cab of an excavator, they're being watched by a digital judge. The telematics system records every second of idle time, every litre of fuel consumed, and every movement of the joystick. The machine is no longer just a tool, it's a witness for the prosecution. If the operator pauses, the machine logs their inactivity. The data judges them as inefficient, even when their human brain was prioritizing safety. It's a weird contradiction. We judge safety with our eyes, but we judge for profit with our software. And the individual is just the start. For a demolition firm to even be considered for a project, they must first survive the pre-qualification questionnaire, a trial by bureaucracy that has become increasingly detached from the reality of work. Companies are judged on their financial turnover, their insurance limits, and their compliance with a dizzying array of ISO standards. We demand to see modern slavery statements, mental health policies, and carbon reduction plans. And while each of those has their place, they form a burden of proof that often excludes highly skilled specialist contractors in favour of those with the largest administrative departments. And once the contract is secured, the auditing begins. Client-side auditors arrive with clipboards. They judge the site's signage and adherence to the method statement. Often, those judges have very little practical experience of a live demolition environment, yet they possess the power to halt a multi-million-pound operation because a permit was signed in the wrong place. And the most frustrating element of all of this is that the judges rarely agree. The health and safety executive judges you on the mitigation of risk, demanding a slow, methodical approach. But at the same time, clients judge you on the project schedule, which carries heavy financial penalties for every day of delay. You're sentenced for being too slow by one judge and threatened with a fine for being too cautious by another. As a result, we spend as much time defending our actions as we do actually performing them. But does all this standard setting, all this scrutiny, all this judgment actually contribute to the work? The industry is undeniably safer than it was 30 years ago, but we've reached a point of diminishing returns. The volume of compliance now acts as a tax on talent. Expert firms are being squeezed out because they can't afford the cost of redundant accreditations. The final question, of course, is this: who's holding the regulators to account? The judges seem to be a protected class. They issue edicts from head offices sentencing the people doing the heavy lifting, even when they've never lifted anything heavier than a pen themselves. We can't go back to the Wild West. No one wants a return to the lawlessness of the past. But surely we need to find a way to stop every stakeholder from acting like a judge, jury, and executioner. Because true competence is found in experience and the pride of a job well done. It's not found in a spreadsheet. If we continue to judge every breath a worker takes through a lens of suspicion, we'll eventually find ourselves with an industry of perfect paperwork, but no one left who actually knows how to do the job. We need to consolidate the courts and let the professionals get back to work, because as it stands today, we're all in the dock